Revealed, 30 minutes to transform your morning into an incredible, life-changing experience. Jake stared at the screen, the bright letters mocking him from his cheap tablet. Could 30 minutes really change everything? In his small Midwestern town, mornings were a storm of chaos. Scrambled eggs burned to a crisp and Lily's animated chatter overshadowing his thoughts. As he grabbed a slice of toast, anxiety knotted his stomach. Bills piled up in the corner of the kitchen table, reminders of the life he dreamed of but couldn't chase. Every morning unfolded like the last, each day was a frantic race against time. "Dad, hurry up." Lily's voice cut through his jumbled thoughts, her curls bouncing with her impatience. He could see the light in her eyes, the hope that maybe today would be different, but deep down, Jake felt crushed under the weight of reality. Then came Mr. Thompson, an unassuming figure of kindness. The Vietnam veteran's face was a map of stories, and today, he offered Jake something surprising, a 30-minute morning ritual designed to change the way he viewed life. Skeptical but intrigued, Jake accepted the invitation with a mixture of hope and cynicism. Could these moments truly be valuable, or was this just another distraction from the grind of life? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With a heavy heart, Jake began the rituals, taking a deep breath in the quiet morning, focusing on the warmth of the sun pouring in through the window. At first, it felt silly, the world outside didn't stop to breathe. But slowly, something began to shift. Waves of clarity washed over him, reshaping his daily mantra of despair into whispers of resilience. Lily came to notice the subtle changes, her father's eyes brightening like a sunrise instead of dimming under the burdens of retirement notices and overdue rent. "Daddy, are you okay?" she asked with worry lacing her words. Her concern melted him, and he felt the urge to protect not just their situation but their bond as well. Amidst the transformative shifts, the storm clouds loomed darkly overhead. The town faced a financial crisis, a struggle that hung like a noose around their neck. Conversations turned from light-hearted jokes to hushed tones of judgment. Jake felt the snickers behind his back, the whispers painted him a failure even before he had a chance to rise. A pivotal moment approached as Jake was thrust into the spotlight. Would he stand strong and lift those who once scorned him? Or would he sink back into the shadows, too ashamed to face the truth of his struggle? The weight of the town's perception almost crushed him. Would the town's collective judgment push him further away, or could his unwavering love for Lily bridge gaps created by hardship? Jake stood at that emotional precipice, confronted with the choice to inspire change or shrink into obscurity. The question pulsed in the air, a moment of reckoning hung before him like an unfinished symphony. Would he choose courage over weakness, resilience over surrender? Jake's pulse quickened as he faced the day, the sunlight filtering through the kitchen window like a spotlight demanding his attention. He felt the familiar knot in his stomach, but today the anxiety battled against a growing flicker of determination. He reminded himself of Mr. Thompson's words about making the most of every moment. Somehow, he had to find a way to rise above the judgment surrounding him. Lily's laughter rang out, brightening the tense atmosphere. "Look, Dad. I can hop on one foot now." Her exuberance was contagious, and for a brief moment, the weight of the world lifted. He joined her in celebrating this small victory, hopping alongside her, and their laughter intertwined, creating a bubble of joy that felt untouchable. But as the morning rolled on, reality crept back in. Reports of layoffs echoed through town. They were whispers at first, then a storm every corner turned. Jake gulped as the thought of financial instability surged through him, reminding him of the bills that were now starting to feel like monsters hiding in the shadows. He squeezed Lily's shoulder, silently promising to protect her as best he could. "You're going to the meeting today, right, Daddy?" she asked between bites of cereal, her innocent confidence radiating hope. It was a community town hall, a gathering fraught with tension, where uncertainty mixed with bitterness like sugar in salt water. Jake nodded, but inside, his stomach churned. At the meeting, an unprepared Jake stood amidst familiar faces. There were the stiff-lipped neighbors, the single parents who wore exhaustion like a badge, and the hopeful youth seeing their dreams dwindle. As he glanced at Lily, seated beside a friend, his heart swelled with love and a longing to change the narrative for their small community. When the mayor called for open dialogue, Jake felt a shiver of courage rise within him. "I'd like to speak," he said, hesitating as he stood. The murmurs quieted, heads turning, eyes narrowing. The weight of their expectations felt like a heavy coat, one he could easily shed if only he allowed himself to transform. With each word that left his mouth, Jake felt layers of doubt peel away. He spoke of the morning rituals, the breaths taken in the quiet moments, how they reshaped not just his perspective but the love he held for Lily. He shared the importance of resilience. "If we lean on each other, maybe we can turn our struggles into a bridge that leads us forward, instead of letting them be a wall that separates us," he said, his voice steadying with each passing second. Some in the crowd leaned forward, intrigued. Others crossed their arms. He could almost see the internal battles raging within them. Did they want to believe? Did they dare cross the chasm of their own judgment? As he concluded, the room remained silent, the unfinished business of the town hanging thick in the air. Jake's heart pounded, waiting for their response. Would they accept his words? Would they join him in rewriting their story together? From the back of the room, Mr. Thompson nodded, the tiniest smile lurking beneath his weathered face. But before Jake could take another breath, an unexpected voice called out from the crowd, breaking the tension. "What do you suggest we do?" Shock coursed through him. The query opened the floodgates. Suddenly, everyone turned to him, and the responsibility felt heavier. Could he really be the one to lead? Jake stood at the edge of something larger than himself, excitement and fear swirling inside him. He took a deep breath and leaned into the unexpected moment. What could he say that would inspire the town to come together, rather than fall apart? As he opened his mouth to respond, the weight of change hung in the air, inviting the challenge ahead. Would he find the right words, or would they slip through his fingers like grains of sand? Jake's heart raced as the question echoed through the room. "What do you suggest we do?" The weight of everyone's attention pressed down on him, and he felt as if he stood naked under a spotlight. There had been so many times in his life when he avoided the spotlight, yet now it was invigorating. He took another deep breath, his mind racing as he glanced around the room. The faces in the crowd looked weary, worn by challenges that seemed insurmountable. He could see Lily's hopeful face peeking out from behind a neighbor, her eyes big and wide, full of trust in him. "Okay, let us think about this together," he began, his voice firmer than before. "We need a plan, something that can rally our community, a way to spark hope where it's dimmed." He could see a flicker of interest from the crowd, a few heads nodding slightly. "We can organize community workshops, resources for everyone. Maybe we can share skills," he added, his mind now racing ahead. "Some people can cook, others can fix homes, maybe we can pool our talents. Just imagine, a place where we can learn from each other." As Jake spoke, the room began to shift. A young woman in the second row whispered to her friend, nudging him in the side before her face lit up with a smile. "Yes, like a skill exchange. We could teach art to kids, or start a community garden." Jake seized the idea, his heart lifting. Exactly. A garden. We could grow food together. But it would also be a space for gathering, a place for connections. He glanced at Lily, who was now smiling brightly, her enthusiasm palpable. The chatter in the room started to grow as people bounced ideas off each other, some discussing local resources, others sharing their own experiences with job searching and financial aid. Laughter broke out again, just like it had over breakfast when he had hopped with Lily. Community potlucks could bring everyone together, too, voiced Mrs. Williams from the back, her voice gaining strength. "Let us showcase our local talent, our stories. Show that we're bigger than our struggles." Encouragement surged through Jake. He could feel it in the air, the collective breath of a town filling with hope, each suggestion weaving a thread that would pull them closer together. He had wanted to lead, to guide, but it was apparent that this wasn't going to be a solo effort. As ideas continued to buzz and circulate, Jake realized he was part of something wonderful taking shape. They were charting a course together. But then, as the meeting began to buzz with a newfound energy, someone shouted from the back. What about the layoffs? What if they cut more jobs? Silence slammed down on the room like a heavy curtain. Jake swallowed hard, the weight of those words sinking into his chest. This was the deep cut, the punch in the gut they all dreaded. The anxiety crept back, wrapping around his heart like a cold fist. He could sense a ripple of fear. Was he truly ready to face this challenge? Let us come up with solutions, he said, forcing steadiness into his voice even as doubt threatened to seep back in. What resources can we mobilize? Can we talk to local businesses to advocate for hiring? Maybe talk to the local chamber of commerce? Another voice joined in, and then another, people coming together with ideas that crisscrossed like newly sprouting roots reaching for sunlight. Jake felt a spark ignite within him, but doubt lingered just outside its glow. Could this be enough? Could fear transform into strength? It was a fragile moment, poised on the brink of possibility, as emotions clashed, hope alongside uncertainty. Everyone still needed a voice, a leader, but what if his words could lead them to something more beautiful than he could ever envision? At that moment, a question emerged from deep within the crowd. What if we fail? Jake paused, and he realized he had to answer. Would he let fear win, or inspire a different narrative moving forward? As all eyes turned toward him again, he felt an electric pulse of potential, both exhilarating and terrifying. He knew now was the time to embrace the answer. What was it he truly believed they could achieve together? The air felt charged with possibility. Jake took a moment, the room still hanging onto his words, an expectant silence enveloping them like a warm blanket. He could feel sweat trickling down the back of his neck, a reminder that the stakes were real, but as he looked around, he saw determination etched on the faces surrounding him. What if we fail? He echoed, drawing in a breath, savoring the buzz of uncertainty that lingered. What if we do? But what if we don't? The shift in his tone caught the crowd off guard, like a splash of cold water invigorating them. What if this is our chance to show that we're stronger together? He continued, letting hope seep into his words. Every great comeback starts with a setback. Imagine what could happen if we lean on each other. Jake could feel their energy surging back, like a wave rolling back and forth, cresting with enthusiasm. His mind raced with possibilities as he spoke. We could hold a community-wide meeting every month. Check in on each other, share successes and resources. When the layoffs happen, we'll already have built connections. We'll be a net for each other. Lily clapped her hands, her childlike smile radiating warmth as if she were echoing all their collective hopes. I want to be a part of this. She shouted, and her voice rang clear like a bell, cutting through the tension. Others began to chime in, voices overlapping in a beautiful cacophony of ideas and laughter. Fresh suggestions flooded in: carpool networks to save on commuting costs, mentorship programs linking veterans with the youth, neighborhood watch groups growing into community safety initiatives. Suddenly, their struggles didn't feel so heavy. Mrs. Williams, with her glasses perched precariously on her nose, stood up, eyes sparkling. Let us set a date for our first potluck, folks. We can keep it simple, everyone brings one dish. Break bread together, we need that sense of unity again. A cheer erupted, and she beamed, her spirit lifting the group even more. The conversation pulsed with life, and Jake felt like a conductor in front of an orchestra, guiding a symphony of hope. Every suggestion was another note, resonating with a collective heartbeat. Yet, as the raucous joy began to settle, a lingering shadow crept into Jake's thoughts. What if this momentum could be crushed by the cold reality of layoffs? What if the risks outweighed the rewards? The question gnawed at him, a quiet worry hiding against the walls he just built. Okay, Everyone, he finally interjected, raising his hands to calm the chatter. Let us get practical for a second. Let us write down our ideas including backup plans. Realistically, we know challenges may arise. What can we do if layoffs multiply? We need to prepare for those tough discussions too. The room grew pensive again, the laughter fading momentarily as they considered the potential hurdles. Jake felt the air thicken with uncertainty, but he also sensed an underlying strength in the voices that followed. I can reach out to local job training programs, one man offered. We can host a job fair, another suggested, throwing a determined look over his shoulder. Slowly, Jake began to believe in the power of this assembly. They turned their trepidation into a plan, a shared mission that spun from fear into festivity, knitting them together like yarn into a blanket, and then, just as hope bubbled forth again, a voice piped up from the back, a hesitant tone that broke through the new energy. What if all this effort isn't enough? What if we lose more than we gain? Silence engulfed them once more, Jake's heart pounding. It was a question that resurfaced the fears they'd just fought to banish. But maybe, just maybe, this time they could find the courage to dream bigger. Because in this moment, together, they were weaving something destined to change their lives forever. How far were they willing to go to build a future that shimmered with potential? Jake's heart raced as the lingering question hung in the air, a dark cloud casting a shadow over the light they had just ignited. He glanced at the faces in the room, their expressions a mix of hope and doubt, and he felt a surge of responsibility. They had come together for a reason, to find strength in numbers, but uncertainty still danced around them like a flickering flame. Hey, we can't predict the future, he said, his voice steady despite the storm inside him. But that's why we are here right now, to take control of what we can. We'll build a foundation, brick by brick, and together we'll face whatever comes. Lily nodded, her eyes wide with encouragement. That's right. We're not alone. We can lean on each other. Just think of all we can achieve. And just like that, the fear began to dissolve, replaced by a collective determination once again. Jake could feel the room revive, the atmosphere thickening with possibilities. They were capable, resilient, and they had ideas blooming like spring flowers. Let us each take responsibility for one project going forward, Jake proposed, his mind racing ahead. We can check in at our potluck, keep it fun but focused. Who feels ready to organize the first community meeting? Hands shot up around the room, and Jake couldn't help but smile. Each raised hand was a spark, igniting the fire of collaboration. Ideas buzzed back and forth, excitement becoming tangible with each passing moment. As they discussed organizing events, the room transformed. The fears that had once chained them were slowly breaking free, replaced by laughter and light-hearted banter. Mrs. Williams jotted down ideas, her glasses glinting in the lamplight, while others began creating a visible chart of tasks and responsibilities on a large piece of paper taped to the wall. For the first time in months, hope felt like it was thriving. Yet a knot remained in Jake's stomach, a reminder that they were still on shaky ground. What happens when the layoffs finally hit? He asked again, trying to keep the gravity of their situation alive in the conversation. What can we do? People glanced at each other, the warmth of unity mixed with the weight of reality. We need emergency funds, someone called out. We can initiate a community fund. A murmur of assent rippled through the crowd. A job fair would help, Jake agreed while tapping a finger on his chin, envisioning the network expanding. Maybe, we could even partner with local businesses to create temporary jobs for those affected. Ideas kept morphing, building on each other until one person stood up, a new fire in their eyes. What if we created a support group for those facing job loss? Not just to find work, but to help them through it emotionally. Yes. Lily jumped up, her enthusiasm infectious. We need that. Everyone deserves support, and it could help people feel less isolated when they lose their jobs. Jake could see it. This wasn't just about job security anymore, it was so much more. They were mapping out a lifeline. As the discussions continued, the clock on the wall ticked away unnoticed, swallowed by urgency. But amid the dialogue, Jake caught a glimpse of someone standing by the doorway. It was Mike, a local businessman who hadn't engaged much in their earlier conversations. His expression was grave, as if he were bearing news that could shatter the fragile hope they had built. Jake's pulse quickened. "Mike. Come join us. We'd love to hear your thoughts." But instead of moving toward the group, Mike hesitated. The tension wrapped around him like a shroud. Something deep within Jake's gut twisted with apprehension. What could Mike possibly have to say that could change the landscape they were building? And as Jake prepared to take a step forward, he wondered, would this moment be a turning point or a crushing blow? What revelations lay ahead that could reshape their plans once again? The air thickened with anticipation as Mike finally took a step inside the room. All eyes turned toward him, and the once vibrant discussion fell to a hush, leaving only the soft ticking of the clock in the background. The spark of enthusiasm flickered, replaced by an undercurrent of anxiety that rushed through Jake and settled in the pit of his stomach. "Sorry to interrupt," Mike began, his voice low and steady, yet edged with urgency. He looked at each person gathered, as if assessing their readiness to receive whatever news he held. "I've been listening and I think I might have some information that you need to hear." Jake leaned forward, heart pounding. This was it, proof that uncertainty could shape their path. "What is going on?" He prodded gently, trying to anchor the moment. Mike shuffled his feet, rubbing the back of his neck, a clear sign of the gravity of what he was about to share. "I talked to some folks at the company today. There's a real chance layoffs are happening sooner than we expected. They're trying to reduce costs drastically," and he hesitated. "It's not looking good." A collective gasp echoed through the room. Jake's heart sank as the weight of reality crashed around them. The hopeful plans and laughter felt small against the enormity of the news. "How soon? Do you know anything more?" he asked, his voice nearly cracking. "Within the month," Mike replied, his gaze dropping to the floor. "I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but I think we need to prepare for it. People are going to need help, and I'm afraid it's going to hit hard." The silence enveloped them, a thick blanket of dread. Jake felt a wave of despair wash over him, but he fought against it. This was not the time to buckle. "We can still help each other, right?" he said, searching for strength in these uncertain waters. "If we get our support systems in place now, we might be able to create a safety net." Lily stepped up, her fiery spirit igniting once more despite the heaviness in the room. "We can organize immediately. If we understand the issues people are facing beforehand, we can address them. Maybe we can reach out to local charities, see how they can support us." A few people nodded in agreement, faces hardening with determination. Jake felt the knot in his stomach loosen just a bit. "Yes, let's put together a phone tree, a way to disseminate information quickly. Mike, can you help with that? You know the landscape better than any of us." "Of course," Mike replied, finally looking up, catching Jake's gaze. "I'll speak to more contacts, see what resources I can find. I want to help." The wheels were starting to turn again, but a nagging doubt clawed at the back of Jake's mind. "But what about the community funds? How do we keep everyone going? What if the response isn't enough?" Lily chimed in, her voice steady. "That's where our power lies in our community. If we can show solidarity, businesses might step in to support us too. We're all in this together, right?" As they continued brainstorming, a flicker of hope returned, but Jake could still feel the darkness looming. He glanced at Mike, who was silently contemplating their plans, yet there was a strength in him that Jake admired. Just as the conversation was picking up momentum again, the door swung open, and another figure stepped in. Kelly, a local reporter. "I heard about the meeting and wanted to see what is going on," she said, her notepad in hand, eyes sharp with curiosity. Jake's heart raced again. This could be a double-edged sword. Would they make themselves vulnerable by involving the media, or could they turn this moment into something bigger, something that reached beyond their small community? "Kelly, wait!" he called, raising a hand to stop her. "We need to discuss some things first." But Kelly, already flipping her pen in the air, simply grinned. Sorry, Jake. If it's newsworthy, you can't keep it a secret long. And as the whispers of what their story could become danced in the air, Jake realized they were standing on the edge of something monumental. Would this be their moment to shine, to rally? Support, or would the weight of their situation pull them back down? What if the community they crafted could become a beacon of hope, not just for them, but for others swept up in similar struggles? The stakes felt higher than ever, and as they prepared to dive deeper, Jake wondered, would this meeting change everything they knew about togetherness, or would it reveal a fissure they couldn't mend? The tension in the room shifted as Kelly crossed her arms, shooting Jake an inquisitive look. What's the emergency? I'm all ears, she said, ready to capture any fleeting words of hope they might muster. The others exchanged glances, their resolve brewing amidst uncertainty. Jake's stomach twisted. This wasn't just about them anymore, this was about pulling back the curtain on their fears, opening themselves up for scrutiny. He locked eyes with Mike, who seemed to understand the silent plea for guidance. Lily has an idea, Mike began, his tone regaining some of its earlier confidence. We're planning to set up a support system to help people prepare for the upcoming layoffs. We want to reach out to the community for help. Support system? Kelly raised an eyebrow, intrigued. That sounds incredible, but how are you planning to organize it? What can I do? We're thinking of establishing a phone tree and connecting with local charities. Lily jumped in, her enthusiasm igniting immediately. If we show our community how much we care, we might just spark a movement of support, can't we? I love it! Kelly exclaimed, scribbling notes furiously. This community is looking for something to believe in, and a united front could be what they need right now. Jake felt a flicker of hope rise within him. It was like a tiny ember in the dark, and he wanted to fan it into a flame. We need to make sure it's sustainable. Businesses need to see the good here, he interjected. If they realize investing in us can benefit not just us, but their image too, we might just get the help we need. With each word, he noticed the atmosphere begin to lift. Ideas surfacing: a bake sale, a community barbecue, even a talent show to rally funds. Something that would draw the entire neighborhood in. Everyone contributed thoughts, their voices rising in a mix of nervous laughter and passionate suggestions. Jake couldn't help but smile as he glanced around. Here they were, a small group of anxious friends started to turn into something bigger, an initial spark of change. There was camaraderie to be found in despair, and they were each pivotal in forging this new path, but in the back of his mind, doubt lingered. Do we have enough time? Is this enough to make a difference? The thought simmered like a pot left on the stove a little too long. The looming layoffs were a reality that couldn't be ignored. Hey, Lily touched his arm, pulling him out of his spiral. We won't know if we don't try. It's about starting right now, together. Her unwavering belief seemed to ignite a warmth in him. All right, Kelly said, her determination unwavering. I'll help with the press release. If the community rallies behind you, it'll make headlines. I can also reach out to local businesses, share this story. As plans evolved, Mike shuffled forward, a sense of urgency resurfacing in his demeanor. I have a few contacts who might donate resources, he said, hope glimmering in his voice. We could really use data to show the impact. Let us pool all our contacts and connections, Jake suggested, excitement creeping in. Information could be our lifeline. Just as the atmosphere surged with renewed energy, a message buzzed through Jake's phone, a notification from an anonymous source linked to the company. His heart raced as he reached for it. Was this the critical insight they had been waiting for, or another misstep that would plunge them deeper into uncertainty? Guys, I think we need to look at this right now, he said, voice low with urgency. The room fell silent as they leaned in to hear what potential news would define the next chapter of their fight for unity and survival. Jake held his breath, realizing this moment could change everything for them again. Would they be ready to face whatever was coming? Jake stared at his phone, the screen lighting up his anxious face. The message blinked before him, important updates about layoffs. Significant changes coming. Meeting at 2 p.m. It was cryptic yet immediate. His pulse quickened. Guys, it looks like we might have a meeting soon. We need to be prepared. Lily frowned, fear creeping back into the corners of her eyes. What if they're cutting even more jobs? What if they don't care about our support system at all? Let us not jump to conclusions, Mike urged, his hands motioning for calm. We've set this plan in motion. We can't let fear take the driver's seat now. Whatever this meeting is about, we'll confront it together. Right, Kelly chimed in, her voice steady. But we need to focus. For now, let us make sure our support system is ready to launch no matter what happens today. Jake nodded, feeling a surge of responsibility. Let us finalize our first steps. Kelly, can you draft that press release? Lily, work on the phone tree. Mike, make those connections with local businesses. I'll focus on gathering data that can show how our community truly benefits from investing in us. The intensity in the room sharpened as each of them found their roles. The energy was contagious. They were no longer just friends navigating a storm, they were a unified front. Jake felt a strange blend of hope and anxiety. The overwhelming need to protect what mattered most was pushing him to act. Minutes turned to hours as they laid the groundwork. They exchanged phone numbers, created social media pages, and created a flyer to spread the word. The idea of a community barbecue started to take shape, complete with activities for families and an auction that could be the centerpiece of their fundraising efforts. Just as the initial excitement began to fade into cautious optimism, Jake glanced again at the time. We're running out of time. We have to be ready for whatever they throw at us. What if it's not as bad as we fear? Kelly's voice cut through the haze of worry. What if they're trying to bring awareness to the challenges, wanting to help? Or what if they are just looking to mercilessly cut costs regardless of the people involved? Mike countered, frustration leaking into his tone. We need to be prepared for any outcome. No matter what, we need to stand together. The clock ticked. Moments later, the group exchanged determined glances, breaths held heavy in the air. They understood that each of them might be facing significant changes soon, whether together or apart. Everyone's individual strength became a collective foundation against the uncertainty looming over their heads. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed through the hallway outside the room. It was the kind of sound that sent chills down one's spine, a herald of the reality they all dreaded. Is that? Lily's voice wavered, uncertainty flooding her eyes. Let us do this, Jake whispered, his heart pounding. They stood shoulder to shoulder, ready to confront whatever news awaited them. But as Jake nudged the door open, he couldn't shake the feeling that today would redefine everything. What news awaited them, and would they be strong enough to embrace it? Jake pushed the door open, the hinges creaking on their rusted axis. The room beyond was a sea of eager and anxious faces. He felt the heat of the moment wash over him, a mix of dread and determination. The head of the management team stood at the front, clipboard in hand, an unreadable expression casting a shadow over the room. Thank you all for coming, the manager began, her voice steady but lacking warmth. We want to address some significant changes coming to our organization. Each word lanced through the air, punctuating the growing anxiety that gripped Jake and his friends. He glanced at Lily, who looked even paler than usual, her fingers fidgeting with the hem of her shirt. Mike clenched his jaw, his brows knit together in concern. Kelly sat rigid in her chair, her eyes wide and unblinking. Due to budget constraints, we will be restructuring the team, the manager continued, and the words felt like a punch to the gut. Some positions will be eliminated, which means layoffs are coming. We will provide details in the coming days. Shockwaves hit the group like a tidal wave. A murmur of disbelief spread across the room, a chorus of hushed voices vibrating with uncertainty. Jake's heart raced. The weight of his friend's expectations pressed down on him. He reflexively reached for Lily's hand, intertwining his fingers with hers. Her grip was tight, trembling slightly in response to the news. "It's not definite yet," the manager added hastily, scanning the faces before her. "We are committed to supporting our valued employees during this transition. We'll be offering severance packages and career counseling resources." The words felt hollow. Jake's mind raced back to the plans they had crafted earlier: community events, fundraising, support networks. What about us? He wanted to shout. What about our hopes? But instead, he simply remained silent, his heart heavy. It wasn't just about losing a job, it was about losing a piece of their shared life, the community they had built. As the meeting continued, Jake focused on gathering his thoughts. He felt a tug of responsibility. They had fought so hard to keep their support system alive. What would happen now? When they finally left the meeting room, the air was thick with emotions. Mike broke the silence first, his voice surprisingly calm. "We need to regroup and rethink our approach. We can't let this be the end." Kelly nodded, her eyes shining with resolve. "We need to support each other now more than ever. We can make a difference, even if it feels hard." Lily glanced up at Jake, determination flickering in her eyes. "We won't back down. We'll fight for our place in this." Feeling that fire of unity, Jake took a deep breath. A spark ignited within him. They were a team, and together they would rise. He could feel the energy around him changing, they were not defeated yet. "Let us get back to our plan," Jake declared, his voice filled with conviction. "We'll show them how much we matter. This isn't just about positions, it's about people and community." But as they walked away, the shadow of uncertainty loomed larger. Would they truly find a way to protect what mattered most? What would it take to turn this tide and secure their future? The next steps were critical, and the time was ticking. What would they decide to do without losing sight of their dreams? With a renewed sense of urgency, Jake, Lily, Mike, and the rest moved swiftly through the hallways, filled with a mix of determination and fear. The heavy weight of the recent news lingered in the air as they gathered at a local cafe, their usual spot to brainstorm ideas. The world outside buzzed with the daily routines of their small Midwestern town, yet inside, it felt like time had stalled. "I can't believe this is happening," Lily whispered, her youthful eyes sparkling with resolve, despite the circumstances. "But we can't let them win, Dad." Jake felt the flow of her words wrap around him like a warm blanket. She was right. This was a defining moment, they could either give in to despair or rise with courage. "Let us focus on what we've built," he said, his voice strong and laced with a determination he hadn't felt until now. "We need to launch our community support systems. This is the time to pull everyone together." Ideas flowed through the cafe like the steady stream of coffee being poured into their cups. They discussed the importance of establishing the phone tree, organizing community fundraisers, and emphasizing the need for emergency resources. Local businesses needed to be on the same page, too. If they all worked together, they could send a message of solidarity that rang louder than any layoffs. "Let us call a town meeting," Mike suggested, his enthusiasm growing. "We can invite everyone from the community, business owners, families, everyone, so we can show how strong we are as one. If we elevate voices together, we'll shine a light on the message that we're all interconnected." Lily clapped her hands, her bright spirit infectious even amid uncertainty. "And we can share testimonials from people affected by the layoffs. Every voice matters, and it could inspire others to come forward." Their meeting transformed into a collective heartbeat, every plan planted a seed of hope. They crafted flyers, highlighted the importance of local connections, and began to mobilize their friends and neighbors. With a newfound energy, Jake felt lighter, as if he was shedding the burdens of doubt. As days turned into a week, anticipation built for the town meeting. On the set day, the chairs were filled with familiar faces, neighbors, friends, and others who had also felt the unseen weight of the layoffs. The air buzzed with a mix of apprehension and excitement. Jake stood at the front alongside Lily, Mike, and Kelly, each of them radiating a collective spirit, confident yet vulnerable. Thank you all for coming, Jake started, his voice ringing through the room. Faces turned toward him, some tired but others alive with hope. We are all facing uncertain times, but what's more important is how we respond. We need to support each other, create a safety net, a community where everyone is valued. A murmur of approval rippled through the crowd, bridging the gap of trepidation. Together, we can navigate this, Mike chimed in. Let us share resources, and elevate our stories. When we rise as one, it's not just about job survival, it's about making sure every single person's voice is heard. The meeting ignited into passionate discussions and brainstorming sessions, people sharing ideas on how to create support groups and local fundraisers. Jake's heart swelled with pride as he listened to the voices around him, rumblings of determination, laughter, and a shared sense of purpose. In that moment, it felt like something monumental was shifting. Days later, after tireless efforts from neighbors and friends, the community potluck exploded with life and color. Tables overflowed with dishes from families, laughter bounced off the walls, and the warmth of camaraderie enveloped them like a cozy quilt. They shared not just meals but stories, hopes, fears, and dreams, turning a bleak situation into an opportunity for connection. In that joy-filled room, Jake felt the heavy weight of anxiety lift. They were building more than just a support system, they had created a community fueled by love and resilience. As laughter erupted again, Jake locked eyes with Lily. Look at what we've done, he said, his voice cracking slightly with emotion. She grinned back, her joy radiant, and for a moment, everything felt right. Amidst the clattering of forks and the sound of chatter, he felt the fiery spirit of change coursing through the room. Here, in this small town, they were weaving a fabric of solidarity, one that would withstand any storm. As the sun set, casting golden light through the window, Jake realized the power they held. They weren't just surviving, they were thriving, united by trials that turned into triumphs. The fear of layoffs had transformed into an urgency to connect, uplift, and inspire. And this transformation was only the beginning. Jake looked at those around him, their shared smiles, the love in their eyes. They had each other, and together they could face whatever else life had in store. This was their moment. Now, as you've gone on this journey with Jake and his community, it's time for you to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more hearts. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this incredible transformation. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiration. Show your support now, because only true fans understand the importance of uplifting the community through these simple actions.